And in this article it says that one provision BP explicitly backed, this is in the Senate Kerry climate bill, according to Congressional Quarterly and other media reports, a higher gas tax. The money would be earmarked for building more highways, thus inducing more driving and more gasoline consumption. So there you have it. BP fully behind the climate bill, fully behind the global warming scam, fully behind the gas tax. And all the liberals are saying, oh, Obama needs to deal with BP. When they're tied at the hip. Tony Hayward there selling his stocks before the disaster. Peter Sutherland selling his stocks now with Goldman Sachs. Both Sutherland and Obama, obviously Bilderberg attendees, they're all joined at the hip. And they're all prolonging this crisis. A, for their financial agenda, and B, for the political agenda, which is the carbon tax, which is the climate bill. Now, as we were talking about last week, Obama's indicated that he's now going to wait. He's going to introduce a weaker climate bill quite imminently, and then he's going to wait after the midterm elections in November, and then add the teeth, add the carbon tax. So he's got that gap in which he needs to build up the political capital to then exploit to add the carbon tax to the energy bill that would have already been passed in the Senate. They're waiting until after November because obviously it's after the elections, then the heat is off. All these politicians can freely stab their constituents in the back by voting for this carbon tax, which is a consumption tax on their standard of living. And it's going to decimate any disposable income Americans have left in this economic crisis. It's a tax on the very substance we exhale. So he's got this period of time where he's going to wait until he introduces the carbon tax. So between now and November, only expect this oil spill to get worse, because by every passing day, every passing week that it gets worse, Obama can say, we need to reduce our dependence on oil because look at what happened. And this builds up the case for a carbon tax, which BP wants. They've said they wanted, because it's going to hike gas taxes. They're going to make a lot of money out of it. They're one of the founding members of the cap and trade lobby. Cap and trade system's going to make them billions, if not trillions, in the long term. Obama's not fighting the oil companies. Come on, don't be stupid. Not the oil companies pushing global warming skeptics. All the damn oil companies are behind global warming. Google it. Globalists love global warming. All the oil heads, Peter Sutherland included, were right at the start all pushing global warming. They were all pushing artificial scarcity of oil and peak oil. Because if you create artificial scarcity as an oil company, what happens? The price of your oil goes up, you make more money. So we've got the financial motivations, we've got the hardcore evidence that there was sabotage with improperly fixing this well. We've got the political motivation with the climate tax, the consumption tax. We've also got the fact that as a direct result of this oil spill, the plans for exploratory drilling in the Arctic, something which, Obama had to pass through gritted teeth, has now been mothballed. It's been postponed, and that all contributes towards this post-industrial revolution that they want. They want to shut down the oil industry. They want to turn us over to this green economy nightmare that's going to cause another Great Depression. And the longer this drags on, the more they move towards that goal. No motivation in preventing it from happening in the first place on the part of the federal government, BP, Halliburton. No motivation in fixing it, which is why they've rejected any help to do so. So now we're in a situation where there's still at least 95 to 90% of this oil well, of the capacity, is still down there. I mean, people will say, this oil keeps spewing, when is it going to run out? Well, anything up to 4 years. There's 2 billion gallons of oil down there at least. If they don't manage to put a cap on it, this is going to drag on for 4 years. They've rejected the help from the Belgians, saying we can stop it in 2 to 4 months. Oh no, 4 years. And you know, there's a lot of sound research from the Russians into the abiotic nature of oil, especially in the Gulf region. So if that's true, I mean, God help us, because it could never end. If the oil down there is naturally occurring, this spill's never going to end, unless we expose the fact that the federal government's response has been to deliberately botch the whole thing. So we've run through the evidence. It's monumental, it's mammoth, it's in triplicate. There's a plethora of evidence to directly implicate BP, Halliburton and the federal government with foreknowledge, motivation for sabotage and deliberate malfeasance, and in the very least, negligence. This is clear. We've waited on this for weeks, for months, for the evidence to build up, and it's all pointing in this direction. Governors of Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, we need an immediate criminal investigation into the role of BP, Halliburton and the federal government in causing the oil spill disaster, as well as their continuing cover-up of what's going on, in addition to their efforts to block not only foreign companies from helping clean up the spill, but blocking local authorities from merely helping clean up the beaches. Now, in the article posted on prisonplanet.com today, and this is going to be up all week in the News in Focus section, we've got the email addresses, we've got the phone numbers, we've got the addresses for the Governor of Florida, Charlie Crist, Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal, and Mississippi Governor Haley Barbour. We've got all the contact details, email, telephone numbers. Please help us in bringing this information to light, because we need an investigation into this. We need it done at the state level. We also need those local legislatures to conduct emergency sessions to usurp that power back that the feds have taken from them, because they're not being allowed to clean up their own environment. It's the same thing that happened with Katrina, and you know where that led. Remember, we talked about at the start of this broadcast, Aaron Broussard, remember him crying on Meet the Press saying, you know, I couldn't get to my grandmother, I couldn't get to my mother, they ended up dying. FEMA cut the communication lines. It was deliberately sabotaged by the federal government. That's proven. And every indication from this oil spill suggests that they're doing exactly the same, for all the reasons that I've just outlined. So please, contact the governor of these states, contact the local legislative bodies, be polite, but point them to the information contained in this article and demand that they institute an immediate and full criminal investigation into the role of BP, Halliburton and the federal government in causing the oil spill and indeed exploiting it, allowing the crisis to worsen in order to pursue their political and financial agendas to the detriment of the people in those areas, people of America, and ultimately, in terms of the economy, everybody around the globe. This is a criminal matter, and all the evidence points directly towards, in the very least, negligence, and the majority of it points towards sabotage. So we're going to leave this special video report for now. My name is Paul Joseph Watson. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.